We are talking tonight about pricing for profit, okay? Not pricing to get by, not pricing to, hoping you get a little bit of money in the bank, but pricing so that you not only can pay your bills and survive, but also so that you thrive because you absolutely do that, okay? No one goes and gets a job and reports to their employer to break even at the end of the week and say, oh, well, thanks for your help this week. Your paycheck is zero. No one does that, right? So why are people accepting that in their business? Okay. If you're mindlessly pricing your services or knowingly pricing too low, you're not going to be as successful as you could be, and you will not have a sustainable business. This topic is so important, guys. Okay. Poor pricing choices are like a disease in the photography industry, and it happens for many reasons. Okay. One of the biggest reasons is just honestly a pure lack of knowledge about cost of doing business and personal budget needs. I personally believe in our country, the United States of America, there is a sore lack of personal finance education. That's why so many of us are in debt. We all, are struggling with money when I think things could be very different for a lot of us if we had more of that education. And unfortunately, I think that lack of education translates into our businesses, and that's why we're seeing it in the photography industry as well. Okay. Another reason that this happens is that there are a lot of hobbyists or people who are looking to make a bit of money on the side, and they may very well not have a licensed business where they are paying things like 20+% to the federal government and 3% for their CRM like Honeybook. Or they may have a licensed business, but it's not their sole source of income and profit isn't concerned. There are a lot of people in the industry who are in that position. So there's a lot of reasons why poor pricing choices exist, but those are a couple of the most common ones, okay? But this is the thing. If you're listening to this, you're different from the majority. You want to know how to price yourself appropriately and have the business and the life that you deserve, all while serving your clients and serving them well. And you can do that, okay? So let's learn just how to do that, okay? First, let's talk about a couple common mistakes photographers make when pricing themselves. One of the most common ones that I see is photographers pricing themselves based on others in their area, okay? Photography is not a one-size-fits-all business, okay? We each have different types of clients, a different niche, different business models, okay? So what someone else is charging may very well not make sense for you and your business, okay? Just because it appears someone has more business than you with their particular price point does not mean that they're actually busy or that they're actually profiting or that they're actually happy. Okay? A lot of photographers have not priced themselves according to their cost of doing business and their personal budget needs, so their numbers are typically too low to begin with. So why in the world would you want to base your pricing on what other people are doing? Okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with looking at what others are charging in your area, just kind of see what the going trends are, but really take that with a grain of salt, okay? Another mistake that photographers make is believing that the better deal that you have, the more likely you're going to get the client, okay? Now, in reality, having the better deal does not always get the client, and in fact, if it does, it usually does not get the better client, okay? So let me put this into perspective for you guys. Think about Kohl's and Bloomingdale's, okay? When you walk into Kohl's, there's some things that you can expect, all right? Racks and racks of clothing with sales signs on top of them, right? Just about every rack has a sales sign, always with some percentage off, right? Then there's the clearance racks that are chaotically smashed together with additional signs for discounts there too. Then you'll see people with their coupons in hand to use with those sale items to get an even bigger deal, okay? Then you see employees who seem a bit stressed because they've been dealing with the chaos all day. The reality is that when people enter a store like Kohl's, or even like JCPenney's, that's another good example, they go in expecting a deal, okay? So let's talk about places like Bloomingdale's. Why would someone shop at Bloomingdale's? There is a higher end experience. They can find name brands. It's more open, airy, and organized versus everything being crammed together. Overall, it has a completely different feeling when you walk in, right? If you decide to wait and come back when there might be a sale, it will be very likely that what you originally wanted there will not be there, okay? No one walks into a Bloomingdale's expecting to get something at a cheap price or any kind of deal. Okay, that's just not what that company's marketing tactic is. Okay, they have clearly made the decision that they want to attract higher end clients who value a high end experience and are willing to pay more for that. Okay, so my point in this example is that there is a market for everyone, but you need to really sit down and ask yourself, who are you marketing to? Okay, who are you marketing to? Personally, I want to attract higher end clients who appreciate and value my work and the experience they have when working with me, and therefore are willing to pay more just to work with me. Because if they go elsewhere, they don't get to have me, and they know that. Okay, I'd rather work with those kind of clients versus those looking for a deal that will ask for more and more because they expected a deal in the first place. Those are the kind of clients who ask for additional discounts, major additional edits, and oftentimes show up late, cancel, or they request to reschedule last minute because they value the deal over you. You sold them on your deal, not on you. Does that make sense to you guys? Because I really want to make this clear here. Again, there's a market for everyone. It's not that you're doing something right or wrong, but I want to put this in perspective to you so that you can make better choices for yourself as to what kind of business and what kind of life you want to have. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So let's look at a simple formula to price yourself appropriately. And once you know that, you'll be able to have your foundation to make the right choices as to who you should or want to be marketing to, okay? But first, let's start with step one. And that is creating a personal budget, okay? How much do you need for your living expenses? How much do you need for retirement? Yes, you need to sit down and figure that out. How about insurance? We're talking health insurance, life insurance, and disability insurance. Guys, you break a hand, you don't work. Disability, and that cushions you. Insurance is to help prevent disaster. It's to help prevent you from going bankrupt. That's what it is. You deserve to have those things. You should have those things, and they need to be in your budget. If you do not currently have those things, go ahead and add it to the budget for this mathematical purpose, okay? Also, savings. This is outside of retirement. Maybe savings in case the hot water heater goes out. Savings for if you want to take a vacation, because yes, you deserve to have time off. We don't need to be working 24/7. No one should feel guilty about taking time off on their business and maybe taking a trip with their family, okay? So add savings in there too, all right? Your personal budget will tell you what your needed income per month is, all right? And some of you who may not be familiar with making personal budgets may say, well, Becca, I have certain bills that only come once a quarter or once a year. That's fine. Add that up, figure out what it costs you per year, divide by 12, and that will give you the cost per month that you're spending on that particular category, okay? Step 2, we need to figure out your cost of doing business. Photography is not an inexpensive business to be in. It's unfortunately not. When you're first starting out, you will find that you're already spending at least $3,000 to $5,000 a year. It is not uncommon for someone who has a little more experience, a little more gear, a little bit busier of a business to have anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 a year in business expenses. Okay, so understand that. All right. So when we're talking about your cost of doing business, Millie says, Becca, do you happen to have a formula that you can share or a source with a good formula? I'm going to be sharing a formula for how to figure out how to price your work tonight, but are you talking about personal budget, Millie? See if you can expand on that for me, and I'll do my best to get you the information you need. But with cost of doing business, you need to sit down and figure out how much do I spend in gear on average per month. That might be a yearly thing where, again, you have to divide by 12 to figure out a monthly average. How much do you spend in software and apps? How much do you spend in transaction fees? Guys, we pay, it's amazing to me how photographers will complain about people, clients talking about how expensive photography is. Yeah, I will see photographers that will complain about spending $100 for a styled shoot. And it's like, guys, are you doing cost of doing business? Because you know that at least 23% is taken out right away, because there's 3% going to the CRM like Honeybook. There's 20% at least going to taxes. So there's a chunk that's taken out. We got to figure it. We have to really pay attention to these things and make sure that we're recording them, okay? So insurance for your gear, liability, things like that. Continuing education. Continuing education should be part of your cost of doing business. You should always be learning. I don't care how long you have been a photographer. You should always continue your education. So that should definitely be part of your cost of doing business also. Millie says, no, like cost of doing business to figure out pricing. Honestly, Millie, it's pretty simple. If I'm not making it simple enough, just let me know and I'd be happy to help you, because I want to make sure that everybody is understanding. But you literally just need to make a list of all your expenditures, everything you spend money on, okay? And again, some of these things are a monthly bill. Like for example, your Adobe subscription for Photoshop and Lightroom, that's typically $9.99 a month for everybody, right? That's a monthly recurring bill. But there's other bills, like for example, my insurance. My insurance, I pay out once a year. So I take that amount and divide it by 12 so I can get a monthly amount, okay? Again, if there's something that's once a quarter, okay, that's 4 times a year, I'll add that total amount up, divide it by 12 for 12 months a year, and that will give me a monthly average expenditure. So if that helps you, let me know. If not, let me know that too, because I want to make sure that everyone's clear on this, because I know math's involved. And I'm going to tell you, I do well at math, but it's not my forte. It's something that I have to spend time with and really carefully calculate. And it takes me a little bit of time for that to soak in. So I get it if anybody else out there is not math inclined naturally. Okay. So again, we talked about creating a personal budget, knowing what we need per month to not just survive, but thrive, right? Cost of doing business, how much on average are we spending a month, and all the things that we need to conduct business. Millie says, I'm horrible at math. I get you, girl. That's why when we go into this formula for how to figure out what to price your work at, your services at, I've got some infographics for you. So it'll be perfect, okay? So again, we know now we've got how much that we need per month for our personal budget. We figured out how much our cost of doing business is per month. And thirdly, we need to know how much do we spend in taxes, okay? If you are a licensed business, then there is a percentage of your income that is paid to the federal government, okay? If you're just starting out, you have to get to a certain amount of income before you start paying a larger amount to the federal government, but on average, it's around 20 or 30%. So if you're not there yet, calculate 20% at least, okay? Because you need to shoot for this number, okay? Now, in some states in the US, they have a state tax. So that's another form of payment that you have to consider too, okay? So your taxes will tell you what you need to make on top of your needed income and cost of doing business, so you're not in the hole. That's why we need to figure this out, okay? So typically that means look at the income that you need to make, multiply that times 0.20, and that will give that to you, okay? If you have state tax too, you got to add that in, all right? I don't want to make this too complicated. The next step is determine how much will you work? How many weeks per year are you going to work? Okay. Now we know there's an ebb and flow in our industry, right? So we have some downtime, but I do encourage you to consciously make a decision to take time off. And if you can, put that on the calendar for the following year before the year even begins. Because if it's not on the calendar, most likely it won't happen. Okay, if you have it on the calendar, you can have appropriate time to rest and still make the income that you need. Okay, so determine how many weeks per year you can work, and then you want to determine how many sessions per week you can or want to work. Okay, now we can use our formula. So let me review that one more time. We figure out what our needed income is with our personal budget. Okay. We figure out what our cost of doing business is so we can figure out our expenses per month, okay? Then we figure out what our taxes are. what we need to set aside for taxes, which is typically 20+%. Okay? You determine how much you will work, how many weeks per year, and how many sessions per week. Okay? Now we're going to use our formula. And guys, I'm going to put this in the comments right now. Let me see if it'll let me. 1 second. 1 second. I wanted to put the infographics in there so I can comment with a sticker and emoji, and it doesn't want to allow me to put a photo in there. Oh, it's done it in the past. Why not tonight? Hold on, guys. Give me just a little moment of your patience. I'm sorry. Because either way, you're getting the infographics tonight, okay? I just would really, really like to put them in the comments. Like, I know it'll let me do it later, but really? Come on, Facebook. It's not letting me, guys. Okay. I'm going to put the infographics in at the end, but I'm going to walk you through this slowly so it's not crazy confusing, okay? The infographics will solidify it. I am someone who needs to hear it, write it, and see it in a written form elsewhere other than my own hands. So that's why I like to have all these methods of learning for you guys. So I apologize that I can't get that up right now as we're speaking about it. It's really frustrating, but I will have that for you in a few minutes, okay? So let's get back to this. So we're going to do our formula. We're going to take our needed income, that was from our personal budget, plus cost of doing business. To make it easier to write this out, put CODB, cost of doing business. That acronym will make it a lot faster for you. Needed income plus cost of doing business plus taxes. You get that answer, and you divide it by the number of weeks you are going to work per year. Then you divide that by the number of sessions per week, and that will tell you the price you need to charge per session. Okay, let's review that formula again. You take your needed income from your personal budget plus cost of doing business plus taxes, divided by the number of weeks you're going to work per year, divided by the number of sessions per week, and that will equal the price you need to charge per session. Okay? So let's talk about this in some realistic numbers here. So let's say your needed income and your cost of doing business and your taxes all together equals $75,000. Okay? This number is going to be a lot bigger than you guys think it is, because once you figure out what your cost of doing business is, it's going to inflate how much money you think you need to make. And don't worry about that. That's okay. All right? So we're going to say your income plus cost of doing business and the taxes you need to set aside are $75,000. All right? We're going to divide that by the number of weeks that we want to work per year, or we can work or need to work, right? So let's say we're going to take 4 weeks off. Okay? Let's take 4 weeks off. So that means 48 weeks we are going to be working, okay? And let's say we're going to do 3 sessions a week, all right? So if you take 75,000 divided by 48 weeks, divided by 3 sessions a week, that equals $520 per session, okay? $520 per session, all right? Now, don't freak out if that sounds too high for you, because then you've got to just do more sessions to get the income that you need, okay? The income you need doesn't change, guys, all right? So if you're hearing a number when you do your own personal math that sounds awfully high, and maybe you're like, gosh, Becca, I just started out. I can't just go out and ask for that price. I'm going to have trouble. Number one, don't allow your mindset to dictate what people will and will not pay or invest in you. Don't do that. But at the same time, I get what you're saying, okay? So that may mean you just need to do more sessions until you can command those higher prices. But the point is that this formula tells you how much you need to make a year to actually profit, to actually make what you need to make your bills, to have retirement, to have savings, all those things, guys. Very, very important, okay? The income you need does not change. You just may have to do a little more hustling at the beginning to get that income, okay? But just make sure that that's not a forever thing. Make sure that you slowly increase your prices, instill that value in what you do with your clients so that you don't need to work that hard, okay? Now, some of you might say, well, Becca, what about weddings? Okay. You take your income, cost of doing business, and taxes, add that together, and you divide that by the number of weddings you would like to do or need to do per year. Okay? So it's the same thing. Let's say the amount is $75,000 and you just want to do weddings. Let's say that we are going to do 30 weddings next year. So $75,000, same amount that we had from the last example, divided by 30, that equals $2,500. That should be how much you charge for each wedding. That should be your baseline, your bare minimum that you need to make so that when taxes are taken out, you've spent the money you need to spend on your business, you have enough left over to profit and to support yourself with all the things that you need, including things like retirement and health insurance. Okay? Now, some of you might be doing a little bit of both, okay? So you've got to decide how much your income is going to be from weddings and how much to set from sessions, and use this formula to get your answers, okay? You'll use the formula twice, all right? So I don't want to get too far into that because I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but you use it in the same way, okay? Some of you might be saying, what about IPS? I do in-person sales, Becca, so what do I do? Use the same formula. Because again, the amount of money that you need to survive and thrive is the same. That does not change. Just how you get there and how you get it may be different from one another, okay? So for IPS, this is your baseline. Make sure that your session experience fee and your lowest package is set at no less than this price point. I'm not going to get into pricing a la carte items and packages and things like that tonight. That is another entirely different beast that we could get into. And that's going to turn this into a course. I am trying to help you guys get your baseline amount that you need to understand that you should be charging so that you can make the appropriate amount of income and actually profit. Okay? Now, some of you might say, but Becca, I want to be able to offer photography to moms like me who couldn't afford it when their kids were little. Okay, great, but maybe consider a limited special once a year, like a once-a-year event, like mini sessions or something, to offer something like that. But just know that there will be an audience attracted to that who will wait for the deal each and every year and only invest when you offer it. And it may not be people in need. It may likely be someone who's just looking for a deal, okay? So if you feel like, man, I really want to help people, you got to understand that you have to be able to make a living to help people. So maybe what you need to do is consider something like reaching out to groups and organizations who help those in need and offer to do a day of mini sessions to maybe half a dozen mothers from one of those organizations, people who probably would never otherwise have photographs versus people who are looking for a deal. Does that make sense, guys? You can still serve your community. You can also serve your clients, and you can serve yourself and your family. Okay? Guys, this is your baseline for profit. This is minimally what you need to be making. This is how you make sure that you're making the income you need and deserve to not only survive but thrive. You deserve to make a living. You deserve to be able to take time off, and you deserve to have health insurance and retirement for your future. Okay? This formula is how you know if you're pricing yourself appropriately. Okay? This is exactly why looking to others and their pricing is not a good idea. Okay? Your personal needs in your life and your business are not the same as someone else's. Okay? They are not. All right? Again, there's nothing wrong with looking to others to get an idea of what people are charging in your area, but what you need to understand is that there are people who value photography and they're willing to pay good money for it. The key is to stand out from others in your industry. Find those people who are looking for you, connect with them, and give them an exceptional experience, okay? Let me check the comments here because I see some things popping up. Nautica says, that's my biggest problem, considering it that I can't afford some things right now. Nautica, I want to say something to you. Actually, I want to say this to everybody because I cannot tell you the number of people I've known in my life that have struggled with this. When I was a dental hygienist, I worked with a lovely girl who was our receptionist and basically office manager. she really struggled with collecting money that was owed to us. And she struggled with it because she felt like at one point in her life, she really struggled to make her own bills. And so she felt like she understood them. If you project your situation on others, it can only do harm. And that's because you really don't know what other people's situations are. You really don't know. And 9 times out of 10, our clients are not us. So if we're marketing to people that we think are just like us, we may be marketing incorrectly, okay? If we do that, we limit ourselves. We can't assume for others what they can and can't afford and what they will and will not invest in because of our opinions for ourselves, okay? So definitely think about that. Don't limit yourself. Again, if you feel like you want to do something special for your community for people who are struggling, like I said before, reach out to some local groups and centers and communities that help people in need. And you can absolutely do that. A lot of times there are fundraisers too that you can get involved in where you can offer your services. And that can help fill your heart without taking food off your table. Okay? You've got to help yourself before you can help others. And I know that's really hard. It's hard for me because I have a helper personality. My first instinct is to help someone else before me. But I'm telling you, if your cup is not full, how in the world can you fill someone else's? You just can't. Okay? So just to give you guys some options for advanced mode, I don't want to stress you out, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip for advanced mode to get you beyond this formula. If you sit down and estimate how many hours you invest into each session and wedding and figure out how much you're getting paid per hour, it can be so helpful. And this is why. It's one thing to get the money that you need, but if you're working ridiculous hours to get it, something needs to change, okay? So personally for me, I know how much I need to make per hour invested to get the income I need and desire because I base everything out of that, okay? Because if I'm making the income that I need on paper, but I'm working 100 hours a week to do it, that does not make sense, okay? So that's where you kind of have to step back and say, okay, is it time to help, hire or do some outsourcing? Like have someone to help me with my blogs or with some of my editing or someone who can handle my email, incoming inquiries, things like that. That's when you have to kind of take a look at that, okay? Now, sometimes what happens when we're first starting out is we may take longer to do things like editing, longer to, email back and forth because we may not quite have our templates for communication set up. That's understandable, but I'm talking about as things go on, if you're not getting faster and you're seeing that you're putting more hours than you should just to get the income that you need, something needs to change. So I encourage you to go beyond this formula and also whittle it down to how much am I actually making per hour, okay? The formula still stays the same to figure out how much you need to be charging per session or per wedding to have your baseline, but that's where you can tweak things, okay? Do you have any questions? I know that was a lot. I'm going to post the infographics with the examples as soon as I hang up here. But I want to answer any questions live while I can if you have them. Guys, this is so important. This is just something that people overlook all the time. But I want you just to remember the things that I said, think about who you're marketing to, and know what your baseline is, okay? Any questions or comments before I go? I know a lot of you have messaged me saying they're gonna have to watch the replay, which is cool. So just be sure to post your comments and questions and I will come back and answer them, okay? All right, guys, I'm gonna let you go. Millie, you are welcome. I hope that wasn't too confusing. It's really frustrating when I can't, used to be able to post photos, infographics really easily into the comments. Apparently it's not letting me, so I'm going to post that in just a second and then you guys will have that and it'll make things a little more easy to understand. Okay, so thank you guys. Thanks for everyone who joined live and talked with me today. I love seeing you here. I started saying your faces. I can't see your faces, but I love to know that you're here. And I hope that you have a great rest of the week, and I will put a post up soon so we can choose our topic for next week.